And welcome back, YouTube. This is Mr. Max Buster, here with a full review of Tiny Hands Adventure for the Nintendo Switch. This game is developed and published by the same company, that company being Blue Sunset Games. Before we get into the main review, I do want to mention something that annoys me on the title screen. When you launch the game, every time you launch the game, it'll start you on the new game option. So it's really easy to not think about it and select new game, which is really annoying and can restart your game. Now, I've never done it, so I don't know if it gives you the option of saying, "Are you sure?" So somebody brave enough out there to do it can go ahead and try that, but it just is a little nagging issue. I wish it would start you on continue. That's why you don't have to possibly worry about restarting your game every time that you start. So with that out of the way, Tiny Hands Adventure is a 3D action platformer in the vein of the Mascot platformer of the late 90s that was released on the original PlayStation and the N64, with its heaviest inspirations coming from the Crash Bandicoot series. We're going to talk about more on that in a minute, but first I want to tell you the story of Tiny Hands Adventure. So Tiny Hands Adventures follows this blue T-Rex right here, named Bordy, on his quest to become the world's greatest goalie in soccer. Problem is, his arms are too short, so he seeks the help of the Great Fairy, who is rumored to be able to grant any wish to someone as long as they can pass her trials. So, as stories go, the story itself is actually pretty ridiculous, but in a very funny way. I do really like the fact that that they went just completely off the wall. A T-Rex wanting to be a goalie, and he has to seek the help of a magical fairy to grant him these wishes to become, or to have longer arms, essentially. Very original, I gotta say that. You probably won't find too many more stories similar to this. These trials that the fairy gives you is broken up into 5 different worlds. Each world contains 4 levels and a world boss, and upon beating the world boss, you will be granted a new tool to help you in your adventures. To unlock the world boss, you have to collect these red gems, and there's 1 per stage, and you have to collect each per world's stages, each per world's levels. So 4 per world to unlock the boss. In addition to those red gems, each stage has 5 collectible shapes, and if you are able to find all 5 shapes, you can unlock a hard version of each stage. However, the hard version of each stage is literally the same thing, with just more enemies, more explosive boxes strewn about, and no checkpoint. Literally the exact same thing, with just no checkpoint. The only difference is in order to collect what you see, these white gems at the top here, the white gems can only be found in the hard mode of each stage. So that's how they get. And once you collect all the shapes, unlock the hard mode, beat the hard mode level, and collect all the white gems, you gain access to Area Secret 6. Now, Area Secret 6 is kind of what I like to call the patch update zone. As you can tell, there's supposed to be 4 spots, but only one is currently available as the time of this review. And I talked to the developer. The developer said that they do plan to release more stages sometime in the future. Hopefully that's true. That would be a lot of fun. And these stages are substantially harder than the rest of the game. At least this one particular stage is. So with that out of the way, that pretty much explains the entire story and plot of the game, and how the game is laid out. So with all that information out of the way, I want to talk about some things I enjoyed about the game, some things I didn't enjoy about the game, and some things I found so-so about the game. Let's go to Area Select here, and I'm just going to go to a level. The first thing I will say, the game has some very colorful graphics, and some very nice retro-style graphics as well. And I'm just going to share with you one of the levels here, one of my more favorite levels of the game, Comic Land. And you're going to understand why I like this. I absolutely adore this. Now, typically, you're going to be playing a 3D version of the game, but the Comic Land theme is actually all 2D, and I love it. And one thing I did forget to mention earlier about the game, you see these meats? You can collect the meats, and they work exactly like coins from Super Mario World, where 100 meats gets you an extra life. The graphics have a very nice retro feel to them, almost reminiscent of like, I could really see this game being like a late era PlayStation 1 game, maybe an early era PlayStation 2 game. Like, it has those like distinctly retro graphics of that era. And like I said, the game's very bright, very colorful. You will see this game from quite a ways away. It's very bright, very colorful. You should have no issues discerning items from one another. Another thing I enjoy about this game is the stages are fairly well themed. You got quite a bit of options in the game that range from snow, like very heavy snow themed levels. This comic zone, which is very, like, almost comic-esque, very, my favorite stages in the game. Alien themed zones where you're going on these like alien, almost like alien platforming up a stairway. Futuristic cities. Tropical forest areas. Just the list goes on and on. And the stages are very varied in combat too. Like, you're not just doing platforming, you're doing more than just, you know, or you're not platforming the same way all the time, I should say. Which I enjoy. I will say this. The game's difficulty, for the most part, is pretty lean. You probably will be able to complete this game pretty quickly, and without too many issues. You won't need to result a guide or anything. You should be able to beat the game, find all the secrets on your own pretty easily. However, there is a big issue that I have with the difficulty of the game, and that comes in the last boss. The last boss gets... the game goes from easy mode to an endurance test. You have to go through 4 different waves, back to back to back to back, without dying. And if you die once, if you die in the final stage, you go all the way back to the first stage, which is very uncharacteristic of this game. They literally did not do that throughout the entire rest of the game. I understand it's a final boss, it's supposed to be extra challenging, but save it for a hard variant of the final boss, and let you have a because the rest of the game is casual up to that point. Let the casual variant be like at least one checkpoint, like halfway through that boss fight. So that was a bit of a gripe on my side. The controls typically respond pretty well. There doesn't seem to be too much of a delay. And the music was always hit and miss with me. This song is the Hub World song. You will hear this whenever you're not in a level. The music goes from pretty well themed and not bad to grating and just not very fun to listen to. The most grating music is probably in the Alien Zone. Most people don't like it. I found it to be not very enjoyable either. I don't know what it is with me, but I always tend to have games crash on me. This game is no exception. I had, I think, 3 different crashes on my playthrough of it, which, to be fair, you know, it's an indie game. It's probably going to happen, but it didn't happen often enough where I felt like it was an issue. It just felt like it happened every so often. So that didn't bother me so much. One thing I do not like in this game is how pathetically weak his attack is. Literally, when you just have him with no equipment attached or tools attached, his attack is literally that. Literally, almost no reach. It's a tail wag. His attacks are pathetically short. Which means you have to get close to the enemy, and sometimes when you get close to the enemy, especially if it's a projectile throwing enemy, you could easily perish. Another thing I want to mention is that actually happened to me once. I annihilated the enemy, and during the enemy's falling animation, like when he is literally perishing, he throws a projectile as like throw from the grave and kills me. And it's like, come on, dude, I annihilated you. Why are you still throwing projectiles at me? And another thing that annoys me is the top-down mazes. Nobody likes mazes in games unless it's a puzzle game. Mazes in action platformer games are always annoying and rarely work out well. And I had a hard time telling depth perception of the explosive boxes where they were supposed to be. And I found out you're supposed to actually crawl under them. I was jumping over them and that worked out, so you could crawl or jump over them. They're literally about Bordy's, like, face level. You could jump or you could crawl, but you can't just walk. So that annoyed me a little bit. And the last thing I want to talk about is, let me see if I can find a halfway decent level. Yes. Well, let's just go here. Is the enemy selection. The enemy selection is some of the worst I've ever seen in a game. Well, not worst, but just pathetic. There's about 6 or 7 different enemies that you see in the entire game, and that's it. You got spiders, you got bees, you got frogs. You have crabs, like metal crabs. What else was there? Oh, you got aliens, and then you have giant random cat paws and ape paws of all things. Like literally giant cat paw just in the air, kind of going like, wow, wow, and it's like, what's the purpose of this? And then a giant ape hands too, just didn't felt a little random, I guess. And I find it comical that a frog, a little frog, can one-hit KO a T-Rex. I just find that comical. So I will give it points for making me laugh. It made me rage because the frogs kind of blend in sometimes, but it also made me laugh. Also the hit detection when you jump. See? I didn't see that frog there. So, yeah. I just find it a bit comical. I'm not gonna lie, this is the first time I've seen this. Huh. I guess you could change his appearance, his color. I honestly never even knew that existed in this game. I've just learned something new. So there you go, you could change his appearance. You have 4 different palettes. I do want to share with you how the giant cat paw looks. It's just so out of place. Let's go to area 1. Alien. Yes, right here. Stairway to Alien Heaven. And I also want to say, what else was there? Computer. Just there's really no. See, here's a giant cat paw. I just wanted to share with you guys how it's just so random, so out of place. I like it because I like random, but it's just weird. Like, and here's the alien. So yeah, I think that's about most of everything I want to talk about. So with all that said, how do I rate Tiny Head's Adventure for the Nintendo Switch? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. This game wants to be Crash Bandicoot in every fiber of its being. With the hub world layout, looks very reminiscent of the Crash games. With the collecting shapes, which is just gems, which is literally collecting gems, as in the crystals here, to unlock secret worlds. From the stages themselves, there's literally a stage where a boulder chases you forward. It only chases you for about a quarter of the stage, but that's literally lifted straight from Crash. The only thing it's missing is a T-Rex on a motorcycle, which if they ever do a sequel to this game, please put Bordy on a motorcycle. That would be... a T-Rex on a motorcycle would be fantastic to see. However, although imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, it's missing the soul of the original. It's missing... what do you want to call it? The emotion. Like, the death scenes that Crash Bandicoot had. It's missing that fantastic little extra touches. The variety of enemies. The variety of locations. The actual challenge to the game. And the length. It's missing a lot of components while still trying to imitate. It feels like a shell. Like somebody skinned Crash Bandicoot and put on his fur, and now they're trying to be Crash. It's like someone did that. Like I said, it's just missing the soul of Crash Bandicoot. Like I said, this game wants to be Crash Bandicoot, but it's not. So with all that said, how would I rate Tiny Head's Adventure on the Nintendo Switch? If you want a fun platformer that you could take out in about 5 hours time, and just with a goofy story and some fairly easy platforming with an incredibly annoying final boss, this game could be a lot of fun. I honestly enjoyed it. Even through all the flaws it had, I did enjoy the game for what it was. An easy-to-learn platformer with flaws. Honestly, I think if this game would have spent about another 2 months in development, I think this game could have been a much higher score and a much more polished game. I think it could have been really fun. With that being said, as is, I have to give it a solid 5.5 out of 10. It's not without its flaws, but it's not a perfect game either. Like I said, if you're looking for just a light-hearted, fun 5-hour gameplay platformer, this game's for you. If you were looking for something with much more meat and potatoes to it, I'd honestly probably just pick up that Crash Bandicoot trilogy. With that being said, final verdict, 5.5 out of 10. This has been Booster Box Buster with the full review of Tiny Head's Adventure for the Nintendo Switch. Signing out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.